We're talking about a very interesting aspect of, the transformation around the F&B industry. How we look forward to fresh ideas, digital innovation, or for that matter, guest experience. And we've got some amazing set of speakers joining in. Now, each of the speakers here has either created or curated for us some amazing concepts, fine dining, fun dining experiences for that matter, or for that matter, business strategies around these experiences. I know that many of us have also been avid consumers directly, and we can't wait to step out and go and say cheers properly. But let's try to understand how exactly the dynamics are changing now. How will COVID transform the F&B industry? Let me quickly introduce, we have with us Mr. Vikram Kamath, who's the founder and chairman of VITS Hotels and Kamath Restaurants, and he, in fact, will be spearheading this panel discussion. Joining him, we have with us Mr. Ankur Bisen, who's the Senior Vice President, Technopak Advisors. We also have Mr. D Singh, who's the founder and CEO of the Restaurant Group, and Mr. Priyank Sukhija, who's the CEO of Fiddle Restaurants, Mr. Rahul Singh, who's the founder and CEO of the Beer Cafe. We also have with us Mr. Zorawar Kalra, who's the founder and managing director of Massive Restaurants, and we'll also have Mr. Riyaaz Amlani joining in, who's the founder and CEO Impresario Restaurants. So yes, it's time to get the discussion started. Let's have an appetizing set of perspectives flowing in. I'm going to request Mr. Kamath to take it forward from here. Over to you, sir.
Great, thank you, Kavya. Very great session. I think we have one or two members yet to join in. I'm sure it's going to be a great session. To start off, unless I have any specific questions for anyone in general, all the questions are generally can be answered by anybody. So first off, I thought it'd be great to get a 30-second perspective of each one on what specifically they are doing in their business for the next 6 months. What's their outlay? We have the advantage of certain guidelines being issued, and many places are now so-called open. So what exactly have you all done? How you all change your format? We've got people right from the food specific business where the food is the main criteria to where alcohol is alcobev is the main business. So let's start. Why don't we start with Priyank maybe and take it from there?
Yeah, hi, how are you? Thank you for having me here. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Priyank.
So I think right now, since you've asked me what specific are we doing, there's nothing much to do except waiting and watching. I mean, every state has got its different policy. Delhi has actually told us to open restaurants. Mumbai, thankfully, has not. But especially for the bar business, I mean, we are not allowed to serve alcohol as of now because bars would be allowed in the third phase. Primarily, first fiddle restaurants are alcohol driven. I think that would go the same with Rahul and some of Zorawar's brands also here. So we are waiting the things to die down right now. The numbers are increasing. There are different kind of restaurants we have in India, and everybody has a different viewpoint to it. For somebody, opening this now could be a lifeline, but for especially restaurants who do not serve alcohol, restaurants who are based on alcohol, for them to open right now without alcohol, and that too till a curfew time of 9 p.m. is very tricky. But also opening in general, and especially states like Delhi, like Mumbai. I mean, I've seen some restaurants open up, but the business is next to negligible. So it's too early to open up right now. So we have to just brace and hold tight and wait for the right time to open up. Not be very impatient about it.
Rahul?
Simply said, as you know, the brand is called the Beer Cafe, and the last thing that anybody wants from the government's point of view is beer. The consumers want their beer right now, but the governments probably are going on a moralistic view, looking at it maybe as an immunity situation. Basically, a lot of times government wears a moral compass in order when it comes to liquor, an alcohol beverage. In our case, what we're doing at this stage is obviously not opening up because the brand is called the Beer Cafe, and nobody's going to come in just for having an appetizer, as you may. We are actually in the mission reboot stage right now. We're sharpening our axe. Like you said, what are you doing as a company? So as a company, we're actually sharpening our axe right now, so that whenever we do open, whenever that happens a month from now, 2 months from now, we should be much ready. So it's called Mission Reboot. That's an internal mission that we've put together, and it requires a lot of thought process. It requires a lot of changing our mindsets. We know the economy will boom again. We know our business will thrive. When we don't know, it's going to be a time from now, but we should be ready for it. So we're in this what you call mission ready situation right now as we speak. A lot of things going around it. So I can take an hour to discuss, but there's a lot that's going on.
We have 45 minutes, so I hope we'll get into many things in that. At least 3/4 we'll cover, hopefully. Zorawar, you've got some premium brands as well, which is where it's premium fine dine. About the the lounges and the bars, obviously both have already explained. But maybe you can throw some insight on premium fine dine. Has the premium customer in the premium food segment thought, because he can't get that at home, you can get liquor home delivery, but you can't get fantastic premium food. Is there some change in the customer mindset in the food part?
Hi, good to be here. So I think, Vikram, one thing is for sure that the entire industry, irrespective of whether you focus on food or if you focus on alcohol, has been equally hit. I don't think, consumer sentiment is positive as yet. Will it improve over time? Of course, it'll improve. I think Indians are very hardy. I think we dance to the beat of our own drum. I think we like to buck trends. Globally right now, there are certain green shoots. But if you look at the global F&B market right now, and I can talk from my personal experience as well, you'll find that F&B has not picked up for dine-in too much. Delivery and takeaway has picked up. However, it's again a fraction of what it used to do. So the fear psychosis exists. I think all restaurants and all my friends on this panel, all of us clearly realize that the rules of engagement will need to change, not just internally and with our landlords, but also with our consumers. I think our consumers are very smart, very savvy. I think they're all very well educated, and sometimes too much education also leads to too much fear. And and I think overall Indians are, I would not say they are tepid or they are meek. I think Indians tend to be a little conservative. That being said, I'm very hopeful that things will return. Obviously, we'll all have to now have an uphill task and address this issue of consumer psychosis, of consumer confidence being built up. Because unless our consumers feel safe in going out, they will not go out, and the industry will collapse. So all these timings, which are even not helping, all the guidelines issued so far, even though they're well thought out and they are proactive, they're not addressing the concerns of the F&B industry. I mean, shutting down at 9 o'clock for a country that works till 8 will not work. In fact, yesterday we opened one of our restaurants in Bangalore, and we actually took the last hour at 7:15 because our staff had to go back. So we effectively had about 3 or 4 hours of effective business. You take the 2 hours for lunch and maybe from 6 to 7:30 for dinner. That's 3.5 hours of overall running business. It doesn't work. Add to that the capacity utilization of 50%. The restaurant industry, even in its 100% capacity scenario, has a 10 to 15% margin. Now, if you reach that capacity utilization of 50%, it's disastrous. Most restaurants will not find it viable. Most restaurants will choose to not open even if they wish to, because the economics will simply not allow it. That being said, I know this is phase one. I know the government is keeping tab on things. One good thing they did is that they allowed for 50%. Doesn't help us at all, but it's still more than what Dubai offered. Dubai gave only 33%. So definitely, we're hoping in phase two, service of liquor, the extension of the operating hours, and of course, the capacity utilization. Once these three things are added to the fray, all of us will find it more reasonable to open more of our restaurants. We're gonna try and open, whether you're food or alcohol doesn't matter. I think eventually we will have to change the rules. We'll have to instill consumer confidence, and we'll have to, as we said, wait and watch.
Okay. And what about AD? And I don't know if AD can hear us. AD, can you hear us? Welcome, Riyaaz, by the way.
Hi, Vikram. How are you
Hi.
doing?
Good.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, AD.
Oh, great.
Riyaaz and AD joined in late, so I'm just going to restate the question. Everybody knows, or everybody's been hearing a lot about what general industry things, but I think the audience would like to know specifically to what you or what is your vision for the next 6 months for your company about what you all are going to do in the next 6 to 9 months. As now, of course, we've had some guidelines open up. So, what is the change you've seen in consumer behavior, or what is your plan in your specific chain?
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, please, Eddie.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see this panel. They are about the leaders in our industry. Vikram has been a tough time, of course, for all of us, and we're all working hard on, frankly, surviving these few months and then getting back on track for growth as we have been exhibiting over years. As Priyank said, wherever we have bars right now without any liquor, it doesn't make sense to open them. They won't be. It won't be worthwhile. We'll be losing a lot more than we already have. So we are, as a company, are assessing state by state, city by city, brand by brand, and where we have products that people come to for their food and come all day long, we're opening them. So we've already opened, for example, our brands of Fatty Bao in Bangalore and in Bombay, and they're doing well with home delivery right now. We've opened Guppy in Delhi as a restaurant that's very popular for its Japanese food. We've opened the Grammar Room both for delivery and in-house dining yesterday because that's also an all-day cafe, very popular for its food. And we've opened the soda bottle in Hyderabad and the soda bottle in Khan Market, Hyderabad for in-room dining. So far, the in-room dining has been slow everywhere. I think people are very scared, of course, and they need some time to make sure of the systems and processes that all of us have put in place.
True.
Yeah.
So I'll take it to Riyaaz as well. Riyaaz, in your case, you've also got a widespread, right, from premium, food based brands to lounges as well, places like social, whichever, where the whole idea is. I mean, in most of the cases, the whole idea is to not social intimacy is the reason why people come to lounges and not social distancing. So how is it happening in your case?
Vikram, it's a little bit of a catch-22 situation, right? On one hand, with the limited timings and no alcohol and lack of consumer sentiment, businesses would be lucky to be even 10% of what they are. And as you know, as most people know, in the hospitality business, is more difficult to operate the business. Is more expensive to operate the business than just pay rent, or so it's way more expensive to do that. And clearly, we will be hemorrhaging a lot more if we open right now than we were even in lockdown, right? But having said that, here's the weird part, right? The quicker we normalize dining out, the quicker people start seeing people inside restaurants, the quicker that behavior is normalized, the faster we can come out of it. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 situation. The point is, can we afford to pay such a heavy price for that much consumer confidence? And that's really the question that we have to ask. So in our case, Vikram, we're trying out a couple of stores. We know that it's going to be poor, but we're trying out some marquee locations where we can gauge customer reaction, and also we're using this time to try and figure out, certain gaps. Although we've gone through our SOPs ad nauseum, we're still on ground implementation of all of that. We're trying to see how we can improve on building customer confidence. So it's almost like pilot projects before we decide to take a bigger leap.
Are any of you all changing at least your formats? Is there a new format you all are thinking of, a sub brand of your existing brand for this, for covering this next 9 months, a year, where because delivery has always been focused on being an add-on revenue to your existing restaurant with the existing setup. It never really could justify the P&L. But are any of you planning any sub brand, new brand, putting your existing menu into something where you can cut cost? Or it's an open question, anybody?
If I may answer that, what we're trying to do with some of our outlets, where, as Riyaaz said, we're not sure, we wanted to test them out. We are doing pop-ups of some of our other very popular brands that either don't exist in that city or not being opened where they are. We're doing pop-ups 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, along with the existing brand in that city and giving that a try. I think we all believe that customers will be looking for some freshness, some newness when they come back, even to the places that they love. And it's important for us and our teams to show some of that.
Rahul, a specific question for you. You would be sitting on huge stocks of something highly perishable like beer, unlike others who would have maybe beer would not be such a big component. And a lot of it, I'm a regular customer or consumer also of beer cafe, and I know you have a lot of alcohol on tap, which is again very very more even more perishable than bottled beer. So is there some specific strategy you've taken? Is there some plan you have? Because some states have even allowed home delivery of tap or brewed alcohol. So is that something that you're looking at over this next 9 months of focusing more on, alcohol delivery, or kind of becoming a wine shop where you can get foreign liquor?
Last question.
I'm sorry, Rahul,
No,
were you able
I
to hear?
missed out your last one. I missed out your last question. Sorry.
So are you doing something
No, I
specific
heard
for
the
the
last one.
Yeah.
You said
No, so like for
specifically
example,
for
you
the.
don't for imported beers, because like you don't get imported beers in a normal wine shop.
Okay.
Is there some kind of combination, something else you're looking at creating a USP which beer cafe would have over others?
So beer cafe has always been about getting the best beers to the country. Obviously, we have to go local also a lot now because imports have been restricted for a while. We don't see a lot of imported beers coming for a little longer duration than normal because people normally import beers as traders. Some of the large companies, these big corporates and beers also import theirs, but usually they manufacture beers in India. Even the best of brands are now being manufactured in India. But when it comes to a larger portfolio, usually traders bring it in. So these are distributors who bring the beers into India and then distribute it nationwide. They have actually taken a back step because there is no demand as much and they don't see a demand in the future for a while. So I think we will have a huge amount of disruption for beer for sure. Having said that, maybe we'll have 25 beers, and that's the new normal in any case. I think when consumers come in, giving them an option of 50 beers is great, but 25 is not bad either. So that's the point from a point of number of beers to be. The beers that are perishing right now, I have no answer to that. The beers on tap, we've already, we got about 100,000 liters of beer across all the beer cafes, worth about 3 crores on cost, worth about 10 crores on value. So that's gone. We can't do anything about it. Meanwhile, we've spoken with various governments. So if you look at Karnataka, has allowed us to sell bottled beer. We've been able to sell bottled beer there. Maharashtra has allowed us. Just 3 days back, the FL3 licenses were allowed to sell. So right now, as we speak, we're selling our bottled beer there. Delhi has just allowed us yesterday to sell the beer to a retail vend. I don't know how that will work, but we're right now working on that. As we speak, our team is working on selling our beer back. Haryana, we're trying to make sure that the government takes it back because the retailer is not taking back. So look at the irony of the situation. Today's newspaper in Gurgaon says there is no beer at the vend. Absolutely no beers at the vend because there was a corona test put up by the government for which a new label is required, and that label is not there. That's why the beer can't come. So I'm just saying, it's a mindset issue with the government. If you want to do something, you can do it. Now you had something to do with the corona test, you put it, but you can't get the sticker on time. So there's no beer right now in Gurgaon. On the other side, all our bars, including mine and others, have a lot of beer. So there's a consumer out there who wants beer. It's hot out there, right? It's 45 degrees. He wants his beer. Government can't supply because the retail vendors don't have it because of the label. I have all the beer and I can't do it because the policy doesn't allow. Go and figure it out. It's unfortunate, So there is no disruption of demand right now. Everybody wants beer. It's just that we can't supply.
I'm sure Rahul. Yeah. I'm sure the audience was educated by what Rahul said. I'm going to move to my next question.
Hope so.
So can we expect a takeaway or a parcel counter at most of the restaurants? Would that be a permanent feature going forward? Where abroad in US, you always have a to-go counter. All the QSRs follow it. But in the premium chains also, are we going to have a dedicated parcel or takeaway counter where customers can pick up their stuff maybe while going on the way back from work? Because this is going to be a new reality. If a dine-in is not going to be open, can people pick up on the way going home?
Yeah.
Can we see?
Let me try and address that. I saw an article yesterday on Starbucks which said that out of their, I think, 14,000 stores in the US, they're going to retrofit most of them. They're going to engage in a new business model where takeaway and delivery is going to become a much larger part of their business. In fact, they're going to also collapse some of their stores and convert those existing stores into drive-thrus, because the drive-thru concept in the US is huge. So I think everybody's gearing up for the new normal. I hate using that term, but I have to use it because it best defines what the new engagement with the consumer will be like. A lot of us will also have to move towards that. I think so. I personally never used to deliver. I had zero delivery going into the COVID. I did not think that the food traveled very well, at least the kind of food that we serve. Obviously, now I'm going to have to segue away from that. We're all going to have to focus on delivery. Delivery and takeaway are going to become an integral aspect. Can it ever cover up for the loss in dine-in sales? Of course not. Can it ever, make the unit economics work, relying just on delivery and takeaway? No way, because we built our restaurants keeping dine-in and liquor sales in mind. If those are not coming in, no amount of delivery or takeaway will cover up for that loss. But I'm sure eventually the consumer sentiment will improve and we'll have packed houses again with social distancing, of course. So I think we'll all have to consider that takeaway and delivery becomes an integral aspect. A lot of us will also perhaps look at cloud kitchens and delivery-only brands, where we're going to utilize existing restaurants, perhaps in hub-and-spoke models, where, for example, a Farsi cafe can serve the food of a papaya, a tiger, and a bow tie, and each of them can serve the food of various brands. I think that's also important to do. Since the front of house seating might be compromised, a lot of people will convert that into receiving zones for takeaway and delivery aggregators. I think the rules of engagement will change. I feel all of us will have to move quickly to address this. But I also feel that within a year, you'll have your dine-in back. So don't make radical changes where you have to go and undo those changes a year from now. But definitely takeaway and delivery, like in Starbucks is doing. I was reading up some numbers yesterday on Burger King, and Burger King is now doing about 60 to 70% of its original numbers in delivery, and 33% of its overall system-wide sales in India are through delivery. So that's a huge number because their sales are huge. So I think it's the way to go. It was already picking up before the COVID. After the COVID, it's going to gain even more profits.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd also like to say that Zorawar said within a year, I think much before a year, I think things will get back normal sooner than later. And a permanent change to how the restaurant looks like for setting up for the near future is not going to be possible. A lot of our locations do not have that. A lot of the locations do not have that ability to have a separate counter for takeaways or deliveries. But yes, there could be some norms set if there are any queues waiting for that.
Let me ask you, when normally people order for, I'm sorry, there seems to be echo. Normally when people order home, they're trying to relive the experience that they had at the restaurant. I'm sorry, I seem to have echo. Okay, I'm just going to say anyway. So they're reliving the experience that they had at the restaurant. How do you think it works out when? How do you acquire new customers in a delivery model only, because they've not had the experience of your restaurant? When they've come in the past, they are ordering your food because they're reliving that experience. But now the new customer is not getting that experience that he would have at a Papaya or a Olive or any other outlet. So what is the customer acquisition strategy for somebody on a delivery only?
So Vikram, Vikram, I don't agree with you. I don't think that people are ordering food to relive the experience. Ordering in is actually a kitchen replacement. It will never replace dining out, because that is so. What you're really doing is you're replacing your kitchen. You're replacing the boring food that you've been eating every day. You want a little extra tadka. You want to make yourself a little happy. You want to do a little celebration in life. So even if you've got bhaji and roti at home, you will call paneer makhan wala from outside, perhaps. Even if it's just one dish. So we've seen a lot of behavior patterns like that. People who don't want to cook that day, taking a break. So actually, it's actually kitchen replacement. Right? It's not dining out replacement. So that's number one. Customer acquisition. Look, we are doing delivery right now to keep our customers engaged. The way businesses are set up, we will never make money from delivery. In fact, we will bleed money. So, it's not like there's a very dangerous narrative out there that restaurants will survive doing home delivery. Home delivery business is a dark cloud, dark kitchen kind of a business, which you have to understand. Restaurants are meant to celebrate life. Restaurants are meant to celebrate occasions. Restaurants are for people coming out. So it's they're two completely different models, and they don't they're not about each other. But what we have noticed is that people now are increasingly ordering in from brands that they have been to, as opposed to ordering in from dark kitchen brands, because now it's all about trust. Because by ordering food, you're literally placing, you could be putting your family and your own lives, mentally at least, that you're exposing yourself to some degree of risk. So when they order food, they really have to trust you, and the trust begins when they've come to your house or they've come to your restaurant. They've seen your hygiene practices. They know that you will take care of them even when ordering in. So that's the real difference.
And do you all see signature cocktails also being delivered?
Yeah, we are working on that actually. For a lot of the drinks, we are working on DIY kits. That's a do-it-yourself kit. We are working for two of our brands, Plum and Laziz Affair, for food, and for a lot of the drinks, we are working on the DIY cocktails. I think there is some sound behind somebody.
Right.
So yeah, we're working on those things, and let's see how it goes. We still to launch that, because we fixed on our recipes, all our syrups, or all our cordials, so you can actually have actually a lot of cocktails at home just by adding liquor at your house, at the right temperature, of course. But we're working on the packaging, so I'll be able to answer this question in about 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
I think we have now, because Riyaaz, I think I saw right at the beginning you had started some of these wonderful social DIY kits for mocktail. Well, you were selling the mixers, and people, I need to know how the response was.
The response has been amazing, actually. We are selling about 150 to 200 bottles a day of premixes. Each bottle makes 2 cocktails. So there's a lot of people at home
getting.
How many bottles per order? How many bottles per order is the question?
I didn't know that. I'll order that in Delhi.
So what happens in the margin front? Is it better margin because alcohol always has a good margin? What happens
there's no margin, there's no profit, there's no money in home delivery. We're doing this to keep our customers engaged. There's no this is just to keep customers engaged, because we don't want the customers to forget you. But this is not making us money. So it's not about the margin. Yes, of course. We do make sure that we make our own cordials and we make our own tonics, and it's not just putting right quantities of real juice in a bottle and selling it to a customer, but a customer will then throw it back at you.
Right.
We have the privilege of having 2 past NRAI presidents here. So I want to ask one ongoing issue for the entire restaurant industry, which is what happens to the delivery aggregators. They're doing massive layoffs. They've changed their model significantly. They went into dark kitchens, came out. Do you think this is a good opportunity to get them to toe the line in benefit of restaurateurs? So each is surviving rather than it being a kind of a predatory pricing which kills one at the cost of the other.
Rahul, that's for you.
Favorite subject.
Rahul was the architect of a log out campaign.
Riyaaz, you'll have to take this.
We'll have to get him to.
No, the way I was not the architect. I was probably one of those involved in it. I've become the bashing boy for it, for sure. Everybody bashes me. But yes, there is a new normal out there. At the end of the day, I think we need to take our destiny in our hands. And what we've been looking at this point in time is to get an aggregator alternative in place. We need an aggregator alternative. And the reason for that is that I think a lot of aggregators have distorted the marketplace. Instead of, there's no doubt they've they have made a new market out there in terms of home delivery and how tech has been used for enabling that. But coming from being an enabler, they've actually become a distorter. And that's where our, let's say, rouse is that we want to get into a situation where we can actually, hold back our destiny, hold back what is ours. And that is why we're creating certain new platforms, which are all B2B, which are all fair priced, competitively priced, open to all. And that's what's actually going on right now. So there is a lot of tech that's going on in this downtime that we have. This downtime has given us more time, honestly, because we are not running our operations at this time. So a lot of us within the NRA have gotten together, and we're doing this as we speak. So you'll keep hearing it about, and you'll see a lot of media around it. But you'll see a lot of action also as soon as we all reopen.
Anybody else want to comment on?
Vikram,
all of y'all are in the premium space, so the margins as a percentage
Vikram, I can't hear you.
Payout is much higher than, let's say, QSR or a pure delivery brand.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I think there's
I was saying, as the industry is changing in terms of since the delivery aggregators also are going through a lot of stress, they've changed their model. They themselves are looking for survival. Is this the opportunity to get them on board and instead of get some sense into them that instead of predatory pricing or altering their model where it becomes a win-win formula for both, rather than purely where they've been leading on purely a discount model, selling things for as cheap as 9 rupees, a 200 meal for 9 rupees. I don't want to get into specific names, but we all know. So is this a time where you see that their model can change or our model can change so that we can counter them?
I think their model will have to change. I don't think they can.
And what is the change you all see?
And they are already, so just going into the COVID, I was informed, I'm not in delivery, but I was informed by a lot of people that some of this deep discounting was already addressed. So a lot of the aggregators were already removing some of those crazy discounts even before going into the COVID. I think you cannot just keep buying that.
It goes to NRAI, who stopped their 1+1 and drink scheme after a huge logout campaign.
Well, definitely. See,
sorry, Zorawar.
I think it's all about the business model. How long can you keep throwing money to acquire customers? At the end of the day, you have to be sustainable. You can't just keep burning money. This is not the Amazon of the 1990s where you can continue to do something like this. There's real money at stake. And I think also they realized that even though they built a new venue, they built a new marketplace, they also realized that some of the pricing and the deep discounts was deeply hurting restaurants. And I just hope that now with the new rules of engagement, the commissions come down. I think they have to have a hand-in-glove kind of a relationship with us. Without that, restaurants will not survive anyway. And if the restaurants do not survive, what food are they going to be able to serve? I mean, not everybody can build homegrown brands. I mean, look at the restaurants on display here. Look at the kind of restaurant. I mean, I would love to be able to order in from Olive, but half the times the kind of commissions that, and I don't know if Olive delivers, but I'm sure that a lot of people would want to order in from there. However, the commissions that these guys charge make it impossible for some of us to even come on board. So I'm hoping that with this COVID, they change their rules of engagement. They take us more seriously. They realize our pain points, because the only way to move forward would be hand in glove. It cannot be me against you. It has to be a very close engagement and a meeting of the minds. So I think they'll have to do that, because they can't put any more money at this. They can't keep giving deep discounts. We're not going to stand up for deep discounts. We're even not being able to survive. What more discounts are we going to give? So I think it's going to be interesting, but I'm hoping that they will come to the table, but nobody knows.
Okay, I'm getting into my last question because I want to give everybody enough time to answer this one. We'll go sequentially. That what do you think the government can do? Maybe a 30-seconder, because I know that the government can always do a lot, but maybe a quick 30-seconder, top 5 points specific to your segment. So if something's already been covered by somebody, I'd request to avoid repeating it, but specific to your this thing, what the government can do. And secondly, what top 3 changes are you going to be making or you see post-COVID?
Rahul, you want to take what the government will do?
Favorite question to answer. And we need a lot more time explaining this, what government can do. Rahul, please, you take the lead.
Can you hear us?
Are you drinking water or vodka?
I can see Vikram's on a kind of frozen mode in my screen.
Oh, yeah.
I can see Priyank and Zorawar. So I think
No,
Priyank and Zorawar.
What's your favorite question? So
Vikram is asking about what the government can do.
For the rest,
they can do a lot. They can do a lot.
They can do a lot. I mean, there's a long list of it. Top 5.
But
I think
very specifically in the top 5, from a fiscal perspective, I think there is no money out there. So we do have, in spite of employing 7.3 million people, in spite of being such a big taxpayer as an industry, we've realized that the government does not have the dole to give it out. But we're saying there is not just a fiscal reform which is required or a fiscal relief. You can actually do it based on policy. This is the time. These are extraordinary time, unprecedented time. You can do extraordinary measures right now. You can actually come out with policies which were not there. Kill the policies which actually stifled the business. Make changes. They have all the bandwidth to make the changes. It's all about making the changes. It's a new normal, and let's make the changes. And the government can do it, so they can take off most of the licenses which are there. The digital world has shown how much we are now communicating through a digital platform. Why can't they use more digital for it? Why do we need a physical presence to go and get a license? So there are many ways they can do it. Apart from that, very prospectively, there is something called the ESI fund, which has been funded by us, as employers. This is the time for them to give it back. It was an employees' state insurance policy. We paid the premium, a very heavy premium, and they should be giving it to people who are actually on furlough right now, people who are without wages, people who lost their jobs. So there's a lot that benefit can be done. This benefit has been done for the construction workers. It's been done for migrant labor. And why cannot be done for the industry that actually employs one of the largest, second largest after agriculture. The other part that we're looking at is provide back something that we lost out due to a incorrect policy, which is called an input tax credit on GST. I think the input tax credit on GST is our right. It is part of GST. There is no way you can actually have a tax over tax. And I think the consumer do not realize that when we do not get an input tax credit, consumer is paying double tax. He's paying tax over tax. It's coming to them. So the cascading of taxes is happening. Consumer is paying. So if you think you're not paying, it's the consumer who's paying at large. And I think the government needs to address this right away. There is a GST council meeting happening, and I hope somebody is listening somewhere where they can actually see a light behind it and actually do it. This will actually make the economy far more fairer and also, formal. Because right now, a lot of people are actually in the informal sector because they don't want to be part of the full GST regime. So getting back the ITC is very important. Apart from that, we've also discussed many times the DPIIT on how e-commerce aggregators have to be, I would say, regulated in a way, because there's no regulation around e-commerce aggregators. And there are ways that we feel that they're actually not following a fair trade policy, and that can be done. So these are 4 big asks that we're looking at. And I think, change in policies, get the ITC and GST back, e-commerce aggregator, and obviously, getting wages in the hands of our people through the employee state insurance that we've actually paid for. We addressed this many times with many multiple ministries as well as office bearers in different states, but right now we don't have anything in our hands as much. I think one of the departments which have worked quickly is the excise department. There are many states, because excise is a state subject. We've seen a lot of states work. For example, Karnataka allowing microbreweries to actually tap the beers into a growler and give it for home delivery. We've seen, now Maharashtra allowing your stock to be sold. These are great moves. I'm saying state excise have done their bit. A lot can be done, but I'm just saying if the states can do that for their revenues, why can't the center look at it and look at it as an industry, which time has already come. It's already been there. It's one of the oldest industries in the world. Why don't we have even a ministry for it, for example? We've been asking for it for a very long time. You have a ministry for fisheries. You even have a ministry for coal. You have a ministries for urban. You have got ministries for even food processing, which is such a small industry. Why don't you have it for food service or the sector we are? Coming under tourism doesn't really make sense. Tourism is what happens due to F&B. You cannot be under tourism. Tourism is a consequence of a good F&B and not the other way around. So these are a little asks, Vikram.
Yeah. One specific question, Rahul, just to add to this. would you be pushing, or do you see that some of these measures be extended post lockdown? Things like home delivery of fresh brewed beer, or allowing restaurants in general FL3 license to sell along with let's say a food order. Why can't you also send a bottle of beer?
Simply said, makes logic. There's no doubt about it. As you know, that liquor is a state subject in India. It's constitutionally we endeavor towards prohibition of liquor. So that's where it starts with. So the whole moral compass starts to where he says liquor is bad, but obviously it's the largest earner for any state, if you may. So the center has no rule and no, let's say, have absolutely no interest in the subject of alcohol beverage. So it comes to the states. Each state can do what they want to do. I don't know if you know this. West Bengal allowed home delivery of liquor for a very long time. Spencer's had that license. So it's a state which can do what they want to do. At this point in time, home delivery of liquor has been allowed in Chhattisgarh, it's been allowed in Jharkhand, for example. Most states will open up through digital ordering. In fact, the aggregators have come over and they've started to actually deliver. So the future is there. Now, whether a food service restaurant or an F&B outlet can deliver is going to be a second step. I think the first step is going to be they will allow microbreweries to brew fresh beers and actually give it in growlers for takeaway. It's a very common thing across the world. You go to any microbrewery, you like the beer, you take a growler and you can take it home. So a parcel, what you call, or a takeaway is a very common practice. It will only encourage better beers out there. It will only encourage people to actually be able to, kind of savor something they like. And also it will give more excise revenues to the state. But will the restaurant be allowed to give away anything for takeaway? I have my doubts about it. And the reason for that is that, there are already license holders in the retail world. They will not allow a restaurant which has a very small license fee compared to a retailer or the license fee he bids for to actually go, be competitive to us, because we are open till 1 a.m. A retail vend is not open. So 1 or 2 or whatever the timings, depending on the state. If somebody walks out with a whiskey bottle at 1 a.m., obviously the retailer will get shortchanged. So I don't think that will happen. Having said that, I definitely believe the fresh beard microbreweries would be allowed to have growler takeaways. And I think we made a lot of representations there. I don't have a microbrewery myself, but like I said, I've been part of the representation, and we're looking at, I think that'll be the first step for at least allowing something being manufactured at the restaurant to be taken away from a liquor perspective. Apart from that, like Riyaaz explained, I think there's a lot of options out there to have mixers and ready to spike drinks and stuff. So I think that's good enough to start with, and let's see where it goes.
Anybody else on what the government can do?
Vikram, just to give you an example of how crucial and how vital government intervention can be. A lot of people were predicting that in May, USA, under Donald Trump, as enlightened the leader as Donald Trump, would have 20% unemployment. Okay, but when the figures came back, everybody was really surprised that the unemployment in USA is only 13%. Right, that means about 2.8 million people got jobs in May in the States, and 50% of them, 50% were in hospitality. You can look that up, right? And this was a direct result of the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program that the United States had launched. And as a result of that, jobs actually got added in a month of May and not got great. The economies have actually started growing because of that and not taking a step back. So is there very plainly, I mean, we could conjecture all you want, but these are hard, cold facts, right? How government intervention can really save the economy and save jobs. So, any kind of you have to make sure that the demand side of the business stays strong, stays vibrant. If you allow that to slip, we are just in the throes of a terrible downward spiral. I was hearing yesterday that the virus, the cure, the vaccine will not largely be available till mid 21, and I'm totally freaked out about that. Okay, I'm totally freaked out about that. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. But let's hope for the best. And it's been a fantastic panel. Thank you, everybody.